Once upon a time, a woman wanted to have a child. But she couldn't get it, so she went to an old witch and said, "I want a beautiful child. How can I have a child?" The old witch replied, "That's an easy thing to do. Look, here is a grain of barley. Plant it in a pot, and something will happen." The woman thanked him, hurried home, and planted the barley. To her surprise, something started to move in the soil, and a sprout began to grow. Growing and producing leaves. It continued to grow, and in no time it produced a big red bud. "What a beautiful flower," the woman said, and kissed the red petals. And suddenly a flower bloomed, and a tulip bloomed. Looking closely, she noticed that there was a person. In the middle of the flower, a little girl was sitting cutely, and she was only half the size of a thumb. Because she was so small, she was called Thumbelina. After that, Thumbelina slept on top of a walnut shell, with a bed of flower petals as a futon. Even though she was so small, there was one thing Thumbelina was good at. She could sing sweetly and gently. One night, while Thumbelina was sleeping soundly on her bed, a big ugly toad came into the room. "She's a lovely girl. She'd make a perfect bride for my son," said the toad, and picked up the walnut shell in which Thumbelina was still sleeping, and took her away. The toad lived in the marsh on the bank of the stream with his son, who was even uglier than his mother, and when he saw Thumbelina, he could only cry, "Cock, cock, cock." Many lotus plants grew from the bottom of the stream, and Mother Frog placed the sleeping Thumbelina on a lotus leaf. In the morning, Thumbelina woke up and was sad to find herself in a different place than usual. So she began to cry loudly. Mother Frog came and bowed to Thumbelina, saying, "This is my beloved son. He will be your bride. He will live happily in the marshes of this stream." Thumbelina sat on the lotus leaf and sobbed. The killifish nearby were amazed by Thumbelina's beauty, and thought it was a shame that such a child should live with the ugly toads. So they bit off the lotus stem. The leaf floated down the river, and Thumbelina moved further and further away from the shore. Eventually, a big scarab beetle flew over, caught Thumbelina, and took her away into the forest. So she was left all alone in the vast forest for the whole summer. One day, Thumbelina found the house of a field mouse, and asked him if she could have just one grain of wheat. The field mouse replied, "Oh, what a poor girl. Come on, come into my room, and we'll have dinner together." Despite Thumbelina's sudden arrival, the field mouse was very happy and said this. Wanting to return the favor, Thumbelina did everything the field mouse asked her to do, and spent her days happily. A rich mole lived near the field mouse's house, and the mole fell in love with Thumbelina as soon as he saw her. One day, Thumbelina found the swallow lying on the ground. The swallow had an injured wing and could not move, so Thumbelina looked after it diligently every day. And the swallow gradually regained its strength. Eventually, it was time for the swallow to leave on its journey. "Thanks to you, Thumbelina, I can fly again. Thank you so much. You can ride on my back. Come with me to the faraway green forest." "Thank you, swallow. But I can't leave the field mouse alone. I'm sorry, I'll have to go," the swallow said. "Good day, and goodbye. You are such a kind and lovely young lady," and left into the sunlight. Thumbelina had tears in her eyes as she saw the swallow off. In truth, she loved the swallow very much. Soon after the swallow left on its journey, the field mouse said to Thumbelina, "Thumbelina, you're going to get married. The mole needs you. How lucky you are, you're going to become very rich." But Thumbelina wasn't happy at all. That's because she didn't like the mole very much. Because he lived deep underground and hated the sun. The outside world is so beautiful and sunny, she thought. I want to see my beloved swallow once more, she wished. But there was no swallow left, so she cried bitterly. On the day of the wedding, the mole was going to take Thumbelina deep underground. Before going deep underground, Thumbelina went to look at the sun one last time, and said, "Goodbye, bright sun," in a loud voice, stretching her arms out towards the sun. Then the swallow flew into the sky, and when he saw Thumbelina, he immediately landed on the ground with joy. "I'm going on a journey to the southern country again. Do you want to come with me? I can fly away, over the mountains, to a warm southern country, where the sun shines brightly. The flowers are blooming beautifully. Come with me." "Yes, I'll go with you," said Thumbelina. And she sat on the swallow's back and flew up into the sky. And so Thumbelina and the swallow arrived in a warm country. The swallow put Thumbelina on a big flower. In the middle of the flower, there was a person as tall as Thumbelina, which surprised Thumbelina very much. In fact, that person was a flower fairy. And when the fairy prince saw Thumbelina, he was very happy. Then Thumbelina married the flower fairy prince and lived happily ever after.